you want to kick us off here?
Yes, let's get started. Well, first of all, happy Thursday. We've almost made it through the week. Thank you for being here. I know that you know Nancy, but I'm definitely a new face. So I'm Laura. I am the content marketing coordinator here, and I'm with Brenna, our marketing project manager. And this is part one of our LinkedIn training series. So as Brenna mentioned, part two will take place next week on analytics. So mark your calendar for that. But the good news is you already registered to be here today, so you don't have to do it twice. But before we get started, you've already been using the chat function, so I just wanted to point that out again. If you have any questions throughout, please feel free to interrupt, cut us off, just say them as they come. And if you want to try to use that microphone and you're having problems, just let us know. But otherwise, the chat works great too. But we promise this will be a quick 30 minutes, so I think we're going to jump right into things.
Absolutely.
So before diving into all of the nuances and ins and outs of navigating LinkedIn, we want to talk about why it matters in the first place. So LinkedIn is the #1 platform for qualified lead generation, particularly for B2B marketing and networking, which is estimated to have 70% of leads between LinkedIn connections. And aside from that, there are over 180 million professionals on LinkedIn in the United States alone, and over 810 million professionals worldwide. So leveraging LinkedIn really is vital to the success of your business, and staying active on there will provide you with just one more avenue for increased website traffic and overall brand awareness. Just to briefly touch on the agenda for today. So this first session is covering all things LinkedIn mechanics. So we'll be discussing your LinkedIn company page, how to make sure it's complete, using best practices for your overview, profile photo, cover photo, and other key areas related to your company page. Then we'll get into a quick guide on how and what to post on LinkedIn, including the best times to post, targeting your audience, and organizing your content. We'll also be talking about the best ways to get the most out of LinkedIn's search functionality and finding people and prospects within your industry. And throughout the presentation, I'll be passing things off to Brenna a few times, and she's going to be screen sharing and hopping onto LinkedIn to show you live where some of this stuff is, how to post. We're actually going to upload something to the custom direct page so you can see that in action. And she'll also be demoing LinkedIn's search functionality. So if you're ready, I'm just going to jump right in. Again, please use the chat if you need to at any time.
Yeah, and I am just going to say, if you're just joining us, like Laura just mentioned, she just gave a kind of a brief introduction to us both, but that chat function, if you have any questions, please throw them into the chat. But if you'd also like to use your microphone or camera, just let us know, and we can allow those permissions if you don't already have them. So just kind of keep us in tune here if you'd like to use either of those features.
Definitely. Thanks, Brenna. So we're going to be starting with some foundational aspects, or what we like to call our low-hanging fruit when it comes to using LinkedIn and optimizing your company page. So if you have a LinkedIn company page already, that's great. This all just might be a little refresher for you. And if you want, you can pull up your page and have it side by side with ours to compare when Brenna screen shares. But if by chance you don't have one, that is a-okay, because we're going to be covering all the basics to help you get started. So before doing anything else on LinkedIn, you need to make sure that your company page is complete and up to date. So this is one of those small changes that really makes a big difference because pages with complete information get about 30% more weekly views than those with missing details like website links or company logos. So double check that your page has accurate company location, contact info, and in just a minute here, we're going to be going over some details regarding profile and cover photos in the overview section on your page. But before we do that, I did just want to point out one other feature that you should be taking advantage of, which is the ability to link personal employee LinkedIn profiles to your company page. LinkedIn research actually shows that employee LinkedIn pages have on average 10 times as many network connections as company pages. So by linking employees' personal profiles to your company page and encouraging those employees to engage with the content, your posts will go a lot farther and they'll reach a much wider audience. And again, we'll be showing you this a little bit later on so you can see what it looks like to have them properly linked and why that's so important. But for now, we're going to start with the images on your company page. So you can see we have a screenshot of Custom Direct's LinkedIn page here, and you'll find our logo up in that square on the top left. So that is your profile photo. You'll want to make sure that your logo image is of a high resolution and that it's properly sized. So ours is 300 by 300 pixels, which is the standard for your LinkedIn profile picture. You'll also want to be sure to include an engaging cover image related to your business, which is that rectangular photo up at the top of your page. That should also be a high resolution, properly sized image. And the ideal sizing for that is 1,128 pixels by 191. But in just a minute here, as I mentioned, Brenna's going to show you what this looks like live on our company page, and she'll highlight some other important aspects like the overview. So after fine-tuning some of these visual aspects that we just talked about, you'll want to revisit your company's overview if you have one. If you don't, then you should start thinking about drafting some copy to go in there. But the overview section essentially serves as the about us on your website. It should lead with relevant keywords and phrases to articulate your business capabilities and help the right audience find you. So it's a place to provide your audience with a brief company history, again, a summary of your capabilities, products and services that you offer, and some contact information. So your contact information should be down below with a link to your website so that users can easily navigate there to learn more about your business. And you also want to be mindful of how it's written. It should coincide well with the verbiage and the messaging and branding on your website so that there's some clear cohesion across your digital platforms. But overall, the overview is just a really great opportunity to let people know who you are, what you do, what solutions you provide, and how to get in touch with you. So before I go any further, I'm going to pass it off to Brenna, who's going to jump onto LinkedIn and show you some of this. So whenever you're ready, Brenna.
Yeah, if you just stick with me for a second, you should be seeing my LinkedIn screen now,
Yes.
which is the Custom Direct company page. So before we go any further with kind of navigating through this page, the very first thing I'd like to talk about is this blue bar here at the top, which tells me that I'm viewing the page as a member. So when it says a member, that just means your everyday LinkedIn user. So anyone navigating through LinkedIn who finds your company page, this is what they see, which I'm sure you're familiar with just navigating LinkedIn yourself. So in order to edit your page, your company page, you'll need to be in admin view with those permissions, which if you've set up your page, you already have. But just to quickly toggle through, by clicking that view as admin button, I'm already just flipped into admin view, which will allow me to do all the editing I need to do on this page, which we always just like to kind of start with because it can be a little tricky to navigate between the two. But going back to our Custom Direct company page, we do want to kind of just scroll through, show you the things that we were talking about as screenshots to kind of make them a little bit more actionable. So this long image here at the top is what Laura was referring to as the cover image. So you can see for Custom Direct, it does speak to our capabilities, both marketing and marketing to manufacturers. So that's really the objective. So when someone lands on a page, they should immediately see your cover image, that it's either a capabilities centric image, it speaks to a product or service, maybe, perhaps your industry. It just really is an opportunity to, without words, tell your story a bit. Next, you see our logo. You see that it's properly sized and it pops out from the cover image. So if we had a tip and trick for design on your company page, it would to really let your logo stand out. So we've tried to do that here. That CD really kind of pops out, and you'll see that reiterated on our personal pages as well. So moving down the page, you have your main toolbar. So there's a lot of different tabs here. I'm currently on the Home tab, but we're really going to be talking about this third one over, which is the About tab, which brings you to your Overview section. So again, like Laura was talking about, the first thing you'll see is this narrative section. It's a few brief paragraphs, maybe a paragraph and a list of your top products or your top services. But it really is another opportunity to tell your story. And you shouldn't feel pressured that you have to tell your entire company story here or fit everything into a couple few paragraphs. It really is just for LinkedIn users to land on your page, kind of get the gist of things, really understand your key capabilities, and then immediately be able to click through to your website or to click through to call. So you'll notice that the first two categories here in the overview section are blue. You might recognize those as hyperlinks because they are. And LinkedIn purposely did that. because as it moved from the hiring tool that it originated as into a sales tool, it's done everything it can to make it easier for your customers to move further down your funnel, your sales funnel. So if we were to click through here, it will bring us right to the Custom Direct website. If we clicked here, it would bring us right through to call. So on a mobile device, as you can imagine, that's huge. So really key in your About section to make sure that these are functional. I would say the next two big ones on your About section or on your Overview section are the Industry and the Specialties section.
Do you see sorry to cut you off. Catherine just asked a quick question about her page not having a My Company button next to Home on the toolbar up top.
Yes. So I'd imagine, are you in admin view or member view? Okay, so I'm wondering then if you have linked your personal page to your company page. I will check back in with you in just about a minute or so when we talk about linking those two, linking your personal and company, because it's showing my company because I'm currently linked to Custom Direct. So LinkedIn recognizes that connection. So we'll show you how to do that in just a second. And if that isn't why it's happening, we can kind of troubleshoot that in just a minute. So going back to the industry and the specialty section, these are important for your overview because they act as keywords and searchable terms in LinkedIn. So let's say someone isn't aware of your company. Let's use Custom Direct as an example. If someone didn't know who we are and what we do, but they know they have a need for marketing strategy in Roselle or in the Chicagoland area, they could plug that into their search bar and Custom Direct would populate in their search results because we've accurately linked those key terms in our About section. So hopefully that makes sense so far. And we'll talk a little bit more about searchable terms in the form of hashtags on LinkedIn in just a bit. But Catherine, you provided a great segue into linking personal pages to your company page. So, and why that's important, one of the reasons why that's important. But a main objective of LinkedIn, aside from driving website traffic, is to allow LinkedIn users to just get a better understanding of your company, your employees, and just to be found on LinkedIn. So maybe using the example of a trade show and Nancy, because I believe everyone on with us today has worked with Nancy. But Nancy's personal page is linked here on LinkedIn. So if I were to do a quick search, let's say you met Nancy at a trade show and you caught her first and last name and you said, wow, I love talking to her. I would love to work with her company, but you didn't necessarily catch the company name. Happens to all of us, more common than you think. So you would just go ahead and search Nancy O'Leary on LinkedIn. Once I land on Nancy's LinkedIn personal page, right away, you see the Custom Direct logo in multiple places. So that means that Nancy has correctly linked her personal page to the Custom Direct company page. How did she do that? She used the LinkedIn drop-down feature in her experience section when she was adding to it. So in that drop-down feature, she started to type Custom Direct and the Custom Direct logo popped up. So by selecting Custom Direct with the logo, LinkedIn made the connection that she did work for the verified Custom Direct company page and allowed for there to be a click through on her page. So now the connection is there from a personal page to the company page and vice versa. So if I go back and view Custom Direct as a member, I can see there are 9 employees currently linked to Custom Direct on LinkedIn, and they're all linked there, which is why, and I'm one of them, which is why that My Company tab populates. So that's a very quick overview. Again, I'm highly caffeinated, but that's a very quick overview of just kind of your main page elements, the about overview section, and linking personal profiles. I'm going to stop sharing now, but do we have any questions at this point?
Did that answer your question, Catherine? Do you know if you're properly linked up there?
And we can always check back in with you later too.
Yes, for sure. Okay. Well, we can keep moving for now. Thank you for hopping on there. I don't know about everyone else, but I'm definitely a visual learner, so it's helpful to see that within the actual platform. But now that you've successfully updated your company page, it's time to do something with it. So paid advertising is an option, but there are so many ways to build your presence on LinkedIn organically, and this is what we're really going to focus on today. But there are all kinds of best practices when it comes to posting on LinkedIn, better times to post than others, strong content that will take your page further, and a variety of things that are important to include in the body of your post. So let's start with the best times. These vary from platform to platform. On LinkedIn, a platform that targets professionals, it should come as no surprise that activity peaks during the work week. So Wednesdays, right in the middle of the week, those are typically your best day to post, anywhere from 9 to 10 a.m. or around lunchtime, around noon. If Wednesdays don't work for you, Tuesday through Friday, anywhere from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. are generally good times to post as well. Just a general rule of thumb, you want to avoid posting too late on any given day, but especially on Fridays because everyone's end of week looks a little different. You don't want to miss anybody who, gets off early or takes off on an early weekend. So regardless of what you're posting, hashtags can and should be utilized every time you upload. And we'll talk a little bit more about this and best practices and why we care so much about them later on. But I just wanted to mention them here because we are big believers in them and want to make sure that you are taking advantage of all the different ways you can use them. And once you upload, a good habit to get into is notifying company employees, those ones that are properly linked, like Brenna just showed, of the post. So we'll show you how to do this again on screen sharing. And you should also encourage them to interact with company content, and getting that notification sent to them will just be a little nudge to maybe think about doing something with it. So when it comes time to post in your content that you're actually creating, we like to practice the 3 R's. So we create content that is readable, relevant, and repeatable. Your main goal should be providing users with quick, easy to digest content that directly targets your audience's interests and needs. So you'll see us doing blogs and case studies. These are a great way to showcase your expertise. And you can also upload shorter form content that showcases your company's products or services. But whatever you post, you should always be linking back to your website. And aside from posting your own written content, you can also establish credibility within your industry by sharing content that isn't yours and showing that you're really trying to offer some valuable insight to your audience. So reposting industry-related blogs, articles outside of your own really goes a long way. And like all other platforms, LinkedIn has an algorithm, and that determines who sees your posts and how visible it really is. So with that being said, LinkedIn favors relevant content that pertains to current day happenings, things that are topical within your industry. So the more up to date your content is, the more likely it's going to be shown to the correct audience. But one of the huge parts of content creation is finding a way to organize it. So it's so important to keep track of what has and has not been uploaded and to maintain a consistent posting schedule without missing a beat. And the best way that we've found to do this at Custom Direct is by establishing a content calendar. So we've got an idea here of what this might look like for you. And we'll also be including this template in a follow-up email, so don't feel like you need to copy it down. But creating a content calendar allows you to plan out all of your content in advance from start to finish and avoid the hassle. So at first glance, it might look like a lot of work, but it truly saves you so much time in the long run. We really swear by these here. We know how hectic things can get during the work week. And oftentimes when something has to get the boot and be pushed off your plate, posting on social media is one of the first things to go for a lot of people. So you're not alone if that's one of your lower priority items, but we really cannot stress enough that it shouldn't be. Hopefully you're starting to see the value in keeping a presence on platforms like LinkedIn, just because it really works wonders for your brand awareness. But we find it extremely valuable to give yourself the tools you need to make sure that this isn't one of those tasks that gets swept under the rug.
I'm a geek for these. I absolutely love content calendars. Like I dream about them. They help me sleep better at night. Like I use them every day. It looks like a lot to read on this slide here, but it's truly one of my most favorite tools that we use here. So sorry, Laura, not to cut you off.
No, not at all. They're great. And we have 5 columns that we like to include in our content calendars. So you'll see we have the date and maybe the time if you're going to get specific with it of the post, the point or objective, which is typically where we'll put most of the copy in the post caption, where you're going to link to, because you should always be linking back somewhere, keywords, which are those hashtags that we're going to get into in just a bit, and then the type of post. So we have categories like company culture, capabilities, thought leadership, plan spontaneity, or anything in between. So I just wanted to unpack each of these a little bit to give you a little bit of insight on what we mean by this. So starting with thought leadership, this is really alluding to subject matter expertise and industry related content. So this might be you sharing blogs and articles that aren't your own that you find interesting, and you know your audience will too. These can also be your own blogs and case studies that you write for your content, for your website content. But they don't all have to be long form. And this is really where the capability or product and services spotlights come in. You can break your website down into small little bite-sized pieces and spotlight one product or service at a time, and then post short, succinct posts that link back to that page on your website that spotlights that particular product or service. And in between posts like these, you can do things like company culture and plan spontaneity. So company culture could be posting, highlighting a company anniversary, or maybe shedding some light on company history that matters to you and is a big part of your brand. And then plan spontaneity is our little intentional oxymoron here, because this one really involves things such as company picnics, employee appreciation days, celebrations, or other spontaneous events. And by spontaneous, we're really just saying things that are not part of your daily office routine, that in all actuality, you will plan ahead so that you can get it into your content calendar. Remember to take some pictures of the event and throw it into a post, and just make your LinkedIn page a little bit more dynamic and well-rounded.
And as a project manager here, I love planning for what we can't plan for. I'm always trying to plan ahead for things. And the content calendar really helps just to kind of make the things that do pop up less cumbersome to post. It's like if you build that library ahead of time, you know what's coming, and the work is kind of already done for you. Then when things do pop up, like Laura's saying, the unexpected events, the unexpected barbecue on a nice day, whatever it may be for your company, it becomes just so much more natural. That kind of muscle memory has already been built there. So the spontaneity is a little bit more planned. It's a little bit easier to kind of digest. So, sorry, Laura.
No, not at all. It's definitely, it's a little bit more legwork up front to build one of these out. But like Brenna's saying, you're really going to be thanking yourself later when it comes time to post. But we recommend starting with a 90-day content calendar because things are just constantly changing. And we found that if you try to build them out too far in advance, a lot of the posts are no longer topical or relevant. So whatever those 90 days entail is up to you. So we tell everyone to shoot for, if you're just starting out, posting at least once a month. Ideally twice a month if you have time, and maybe eventually you can build yourself up to posting once a week. This is what we really find to be the sweet spot on our page, but we understand that everyone's calendars are jam-packed as it is, and once a week just might not be realistic for you right off the bat. But just keep in mind that social media, and specifically LinkedIn, is so saturated today. And particularly for B2B companies, the first thing a prospect will do after finding your company's name is search it up on LinkedIn. Mm-hmm. Like Brenna was saying, if you met Nancy at a trade show and you look her up and then you go to the custom direct page, you want to have something to show there when people get to your page. You want to show them that you're actively posting content and sharing resources.
Absolutely.
But after these posts go up, you should be notifying those employees that are properly linked to the company page and encouraging them to engage. So here we have a little visual you can see on the left. This is where you navigate to if you want to notify employees when a post goes up. There is an option to do this at the time of publishing, which Brenna will show you when she puts up our posts in just a minute here. But if you forget to do it, or you don't have time, or you want to go back to any of your other posts that have already been uploaded, you can click those 3 dots in the upper right-hand corner of your post and go 3 down. You'll see that bell notification and click notify employees. So that'll just send a little notification to everyone that's linked up to your page. Hey, we posted. Maybe you want to do something. Maybe you want to like, comment, share, which is what comes in to the right, this photo, because notifying your employees is really the first step in employee advocacy. you'll see that there are a few different ways they can interact with your post. So they can like it, which has now come fully equipped with all the emojis you might need, reactions, clapping hands
More than
emojis.
you need.
Yeah, definitely. It's gone a little overboard, but there's tons of things. If you don't want to just like it, you can react to it using any of those emojis. They can also comment on the post or send it via direct message to their connections, which is that button on the far right. But the most important and impactful way for them to really engage is by sharing it for their entire network to see. And LinkedIn now has two ways to do this. So you can repost it, which will just simply reshare it and feed it into their network's feed. Or they can share it with their thoughts, which would include, a brief caption from the employee up top that prefaces the post and just them sharing their thoughts with it. So regardless, these are all great ways for employees to engage. There really is no better advocate for your company than your own employees. And if they aren't engaging, it's tough to expect other people to. So this is something that you should really be encouraging. And it's also just a good thing to have some interaction on your post before other users get their hands on it. They see it already has a couple likes or a comment or a share. When they're seeing that it's already receiving some engagement or some traction, it will generally leave a pretty good first impression and increase the likelihood that they're going to interact with it in some way, shape, or form too.
Yeah, it really is a snowball effect. And Laura,
Sure.
I think I'm going to steal your screen, steal the
Yes.
screen from you, to show a post actually being posted live from a content calendar. Because part of what I love about content calendars is how easy they are to use once it's time to post. So what we've done here, you should be seeing a sample content calendar that we've developed for today's webinar. And it's just a single row for the purpose of today, but yours might have 12 rows if it's 90 days. It might have more than that, less than that. But you'll see that just going from left to right, this is quite literally how you post from left to right. So I know that this is the right post because it has today's date. Next point of the post. Again, like Laura mentioned, our kind of ideology with the point of the post is that this should be mostly everything I need for my content for the post of the day. And that's not to say that this isn't a living, breathing document, because it absolutely should be. If I go back on the day of posting and I read this and I think that something isn't quite right, or there's a few sentences I should add, I often do that when posting. I know Laura does as well. So but for today, I'm just going to go ahead and copy directly out of the point of the post and go back into my posting feature on LinkedIn, the function here. So right away, it gives me my draft. I'll just copy it straight in. So you can see that in the column here, it didn't look necessarily like a lot of content, but on LinkedIn, it's the bulk of a post. So again, maybe feels like a lot of work up front, but it really pays off when it's time to post. So next is my link to, which again is one of the most important, if not the most important part of a post, because it's driving traffic back to your website. So right away, when I plug in that link, LinkedIn develops a link preview right here, because it's proven dynamic content performs better on LinkedIn. And when I say dynamic content, that usually just means it includes a image, video, or a file. So you'll see an image populated here. But in the event that an image doesn't populate, or it's not the image I intended necessarily, I would go ahead and use this pencil icon, click it, and it gives me two options. I can edit my article title, which means this bold line here. I can edit that to whatever is most accurate, or whatever I'd like for it to be. So I would just click that button, I can edit that. Or I can click this little camera button, which will bring up some of my files, and I could select a new photo. For today, I know this is the title I want, this is the photo I want, so I'm going to go ahead and hit back. What I'm going to do next is add in our keywords. So we touched upon searchable terms on LinkedIn a little bit earlier, but hashtags are the best, most effective way to make sure that your content is found on LinkedIn. We've developed 4 for this post that are relevant to the content. And there are 2 trains of thought for hashtags and including them in your content. You can either just plug them in all at the bottom, kind of simple and easy, or you can work them in inline. And when I say inline, I literally just mean adding a hashtag before one of your key keywords. So one of ours is Google. If I just plug it in inline, some people think it's easier on the eye to read it that way. It really is up to you. Our main takeaway is just include them in your post. So as long as you're including a few hashtags, that's really the important part. One last thing about links, because we want to be respectful of your time. This is an opportunity to direct a targeted audience to a specific page on your website without having to pay for it. So just keep that in mind as you're developing content. So before I hit post, I'm just going to make sure everything is correct for my content calendar. Read it once more here, and then I'm going to hit post. So once I've hit post, I can go ahead. Sometimes it gives a pop-up, like Laura mentioned, to notify your employees. But when it doesn't, just go ahead and click the 3 dots here and notify your employees. It'll tell you how many you're notifying. And you can do this once per 24 hours, which usually isn't a problem. Go ahead and hit yes. So I know all 9 employees linked to the custom direct page were just notified. So I'm going to hop off to allow Laura to continue here.
Awesome. Thank you, Brenna. I always think putting these practices into action, again, super helpful. But continuing on, finding your audience and growing your network is an important way to build brand awareness. And there are a number of ways to do this organically, again. The first is to use search functionality on LinkedIn to find people within your industry. And this is where those hashtags really come into play that I was mentioning earlier and that you just saw Brenna using in that post. Oftentimes, people will actually use hashtags to search for content that's related to their interests or needs or industry. So using popular industry keywords or buzzwords in the form of hashtags will allow your content to be visible to those who are searching for it. So you'll see our posts, that one had hashtag marketing, hashtag digital marketing, you can do brand awareness, and you can use hashtags like manufacturing, manufacturer, innovation. Anything based on your target audience, and people who search for those terms will come across your content. And this is the same way that you can find people and prospects to grow your own network. Use these to find experts within your industry, make an effort to connect with them, include a personal message in your connection request. And connecting with those industry experts will provide you with some credible content to share with your audience and your network. And it'll also just ensure that you're staying up to date with the industry that you're a part of and industry news. And you can also use the search functionality to seek out your competition. Chances are you probably know some brands that you're competing with, but if you don't, you can find them using those keywords. Find out who you're competing with, see what they're posting, and most importantly, see who's following those brands and interacting with their content, because that's your audience right there. And LinkedIn offers the most demographic information through personal profiles out of all the other social media platforms. So you can really find tons of background information about your target audience, like location, job title, employment history, industries, and just who they're networking with. So just make sure you're taking advantage of this information. And Brenna's going to show you one last time. She's going to hop on and show you how to search for these keywords and hashtags.
You're probably sick of me at this point, but I do just want to show you one search for a hashtag. So we're going to use manufacturing as this example. So if I plug it into the search bar, I see this hashtag here. I know I'm searching for a hashtag, not just a term. So this brings me to the manufacturing hashtag feed. So I can see that over 250,000 people have chosen to follow this hashtag specifically, myself included. You can see that here. And what that means is that any posts that include that hashtag are organically appearing in the home screens, in the home feeds of over 260,000 LinkedIn users. So it just kind of shows how including a hashtag in your content can just cast such a wider net for your content. It just exposes it to just a larger audience. But that's not to say that if manufacturing only had 5 followers, there's still a benefit to using it, because it really only takes one person seeing your post and being interested, seeing the solution you provide, and pursuing it, filling out that request for quote form or whatever it may be. So while a large following is always great, relevant hashtags are also incredibly important. So just kind of digging in for your company and what that means, what's relevant in your industry, what key terms do you know resonate with your audience, That's really the takeaway. So to be respectful of your time, just going to let Laura continue here and give control back to the screen.
Yeah. Definitely. We know we've stretched our 30 minutes just a little bit, so we're going to start wrapping things up. We know everyone's time is valuable. That's why we encourage you to find just 15 minutes once a week to add content to your company's LinkedIn page. And it might be, once a month when you're starting or twice a month. But if you just spend that extra time up front, that little extra time to build out a content calendar, all you're going to have to do is plug and chug, copy and paste your content for that week and share it. And you just saw Brenna do it for our post. It took less than 5 minutes. So it really takes that time out of your week when it comes time to posting. But just please remember that it's so important to stay involved in topical conversations. Keep your brand name out there. Be sure that the content you're posting follows those 3 R's, readable, relevant, and repeatable. And always use those hashtags in your posts. You're really just, like Brenna said, casting a wider net and catching so much more of an audience. But another thing to point out is that on your website, you can actually add a direct follow button to your LinkedIn. So anybody who's on your website, any of your website traffic can easily navigate there and find you on LinkedIn and see all that content. And you can also add your LinkedIn to your email signature. So anyone you're communicating with via email can quickly access that page as well. So just a couple tips and tricks that we have for that. But now that you have all the tools that you need to hit the ground running on your LinkedIn page, you might be asking yourself, how you're going to determine if your efforts have been successful. And this is where the LinkedIn analytics come into play. And that's what we are going to be covering next week, 1 week from today, Thursday, June 30th, same time, 11 a.m. Central. We're going to be going over dashboards, the data that comes with them, how to make sense of it all, and what to do with that information. So we really hope you'll come back and join us again 1 week from today. Once again, you've already registered, so you don't have to do that again. So we hope you make it. But other than that, thank you so much for your time and for joining us. We hope that you were able to take something of value away that you can implement somewhere within the digital world of your own company. We know we covered a lot of ground. So if you didn't catch everything, like Brenna mentioned, we're going to be following up with a recording of this webinar within the next 24 hours. You can rewatch the presentation, all the materials that we were screen sharing. But if you do want this PowerPoint in a PDF, please say the word, and we can also include that in your email. And we're going to be sharing a posting resource for LinkedIn and then that content calendar template to help you get started. So be sure to just keep an eye out in your email for that before the end of the week. But if there are any questions we can answer now, we'd love to do that. So feel free to jump in the chat with any questions or last thoughts. If you don't have any, thank you so much again for being here with us today. We know how valuable your time is, and we really appreciate you giving some of it to us today. So
absolutely. Well, thank you, Laura.
Awesome.
All right, I think we're probably going to wrap up. But yeah, like Laura said, we'll be back next week, kind of continuing the series, LinkedIn for Manufacturers. This specific part of the series kind of focuses on LinkedIn. And next week is all about analytics. So how do you know it's working? How do you kind of switch your game plan a little bit if it's not working? So it's going to be a good one. We hope you can join us. But I think we're going to end the session there. So thank you all for being here. And we'll see you next week.
Awesome. Thank you. Have a great rest of your day.